all profit is value extraction. And that means that all profit is theft from you.
Corporate America is on welfare, and we've got to get them off welfare.
Last words on my lips. I am a revolutionary, and you're gonna have to keep on saying that.
All right, welcome to Cars and Comrades, the meme page that is also a podcast. You're here with me, apparently doing the introduction, Brandon, Bryant, Zach, and Connor. A bunch of he-hims just hanging out. How's everyone doing today?
Pretty good.
Good over here.
Well. Yeah.
Hell yeah. Well, yeah, I didn't plan ahead for this at all, but today we're going to be discussing trikes. Bryant is going to school us on how apparently they're all scams.
I mean, not all of them, but a good portion. And we're not talking about like the little like radio flyer trike that you would ride around as a 3-year-old. I'm talking, like stuff with motors. Yeah.
Thank
Yeah.
God. Thank God. I was going to be so disappointed.
Yeah, goofy
We're
three-wheeled
talking,
vehicles, right?
Yeah, 3-wheeled vehicles, trikes, tadpoles, deltas, the whole gamut. We'll go into all the details.
Okay.
But I guess we'll also do project car updates first. I forget. I think Zach, it's your turn since you were gone last week.
Oh shit! I just had a bunch of Twizzlers. Give me like 2 seconds. I wasn't expecting that.
We can come back around to Zach.
I'm almost ready. Hold on.
Okay. No, take your time. We're not in a hurry.
Okay. Good to go. Yeah. What are we doing? Project car updates. Well, my Ranger is back in the shop. Of course. Yep. Fix or repair daily is the truest acronym ever. Fuck Fords. Fuck Henry Ford. Fuck that entire fucking corporation. That being said, I am seriously considering buying a Ford Maverick because I think they're cool.
Like a new one or one from the 70s?
Like a new one, not an old school one. I have to have a truck for my job.
So those
yeah.
Mavericks, are they I know they're kind of like supposed to be a smaller-ish truck, but I know they also brought the Ranger back. So how does it compare to the Ranger? Is it like bigger, smaller, kind of in between or something?
They're smaller.
It's smaller than a modern Ranger, but it's actually probably about the same size as my current 93.
Really?
Ranger.
Oh, that's exciting.
Yeah.
Okay. All right, now I get why people are excited about that, because that to me that's the proper size for a pickup truck.
Yeah.
It's honestly still a little bit big for a pickup. Like,
honestly, yeah. It could be smaller.
Yeah. I mean, I think, of course, it could be, because they've just all gotten so fucking bloated and huge, which everything has. I mean, I look at a fucking new Camaro, and I'm just like, man, that thing is fat as shit.
Yeah.
So,
Let me, real quick, because I do want to talk about the Maverick a little bit real quick, but just to go over my current Ranger, the transmission overheated. It stopped shifting gears entirely.
not good.
The day that I got permanent plates on it, that day, I was driving away from the DMV, and it was just like, nope, I'm not going to shift anymore. So, yeah, I took the transmission out. I thought it was just the torque converter at first, but I took the transmission out, and I was like, man, when I was taking this out, like, I parked it, and then, like, probably a good hour and a half, 2 hours later, I was taking the exhaust off, and it was completely cold, but the transmission was still hot to the touch. Like, I couldn't put my hand on it. So I was like, maybe it wasn't just the torque converter. So I went ahead and took the transmission to a shop. And that's been almost 3 weeks now. No word from the shop. on where they are, whether they're ever going to get it done.
Oh, I hate
Nothing
that.
like that.
Those big jobs
Yeah.
are always like that too. The bigger the job, the less likely you are to hear anything about it, and you're just like, oh, I hope I don't owe $10,000 at the end of this.
Yeah, I mean, I just wanted, like, I was like, hey, can you please, like, keep me updated, you know? Like,
Oh yeah,
let
if you
me
say
know.
that, it makes it worse.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
Can you-
Because, honestly, if he gets in there and it's, like, completely toast, I'm just going to say, fuck it, honestly. I don't think I'll even have him fix it
What is-
at this point.
what do
It's
you-
not worth it.
What do you even think? I don't even understand like how a transmission overheats. I guess I've just never come across that really.
I've overheated a few transmissions.
What is that?
Yeah, I think the biggest issue is it's a really small transmission, like just physically, size wise,
Mhm.
like the clutches inside of it are small. It was probably a little undersized for the truck stock, and that was
And then you put a big old lift kit on there, probably a little extra
Yeah.
stress. Yeah.
Yeah, that was 30 years ago when it was at not 5.5-inch lift and 33-inch tires on it. And me being the fucking just absolute dipshit that I am, thought, whoever did this was thinking they wouldn't have just
That's
thrown
what I would
massive
do.
tires under this thing.
That's not even stupid.
and
That's what
just
I would
sent
think.
it.
I always assume like, oh, I don't know, it's worked this long.
Yeah,
How bad can it be? I've seen other people do this. It's fine.
right.
I mean,
yeah,
it's a little
reasonable.
late to make this recommendation at this point, but I'm a big fan of redundant transmission coolers.
Here's the fucking thing. The stock transmission cooler on that goes into the radiator.
I run an extra one besides what's in the radiator.
There's also an auxiliary one already on the truck
Okay.
beside that one.
Well, now I'm thinking you.
Something else is up.
Yeah.
Yeah. I don't know. I don't know what happened. I mean, it's not the biggest cooler out there. It was probably like 11 row cooler. It's not huge. It's just a little guy, and it was like a little grimy. So probably not working at maximum efficiency. But yeah, it had to be something else. I don't know. I'm gonna have the guy look at it. If it's worth, fixing up, maybe I'll fix it up, put it back in there. I already bought another auxiliary cooler that I'm going to replace the one that was in there with that one. It's 23 rows. It's a little bigger. And I got a transmission temp gauge that I'm going to run just to keep an eye on it. Yeah. But either way, like no matter what happens, I'm done with this truck. Frankly, it's just been one fucking headache after the next.
Yeah.
And I need a daily driver truck to get me to and from work, and this thing gets like 11 miles to the gallon and has a massive lift on it. It's not at all what I need. Like if someone wanted it for, a fun weekend off-roader, it's kind of a fucking awesome truck for that, honestly. Like it kicks ass going slow over rocks and shit, but to drive down the highway to and from work every day, it's just a fucking heap, man. It's not suited to that whatsoever.
Fair enough.
So yeah, that's where I am on that. I'm definitely selling it. And like I said, yeah, maybe looking at getting a Maverick. Here's a few more things about the Maverick. They come in MSRP $19,995.
Wait,
Under
really?
20 grand.
Oh
Yep,
shit!
the base model.
I might have to look into one of these. Oh man, I'm excited now. What?
The base model is front wheel drive only with a 2.5 liter 4-cylinder and an electric motor. So it's hybrid. It gets
Okay.
47 miles to the gallon combined.
Oh,
No shit.
wow.
Yep. It's fucking.
This sounds like the
I mean-
best vehicle ever. Why
I know.
why are other vehicles being purchased right now? This is awesome.
That's what I fucking dude.
That's
Y'all
better
are
than a
convincing
Prius.
me even more and more.
I think it's better than even a modern Prius, right? Or are they up to like?
Comparable.
Yeah, it's within the same realm.
Maybe
I don't know
like
off
a-
the top of my head.
Maybe like a first or second gen Prius. I think they're getting in the 60s now.
Oh yeah, I guess everything to me a new car is 10 years old.
Yeah.
Like literally to me 2010 I'm like, whoa, that's a brand new ass car.
I know.
Newest car I've ever owned, 2003.
I think I retweeted this on our account, but there was this one guy that was saying, I love being poor because if I get in a car that's, less than 5 years old, it feels like a spaceship.
Oh yeah, that's true.
Yeah.
Dude, sometimes I'll see somebody just driving like a good condition, like '03, and I'm like, where did this motherfucker get all this money from? And then somebody else has to point out he's 20 years old. Like,
Oh yeah, my neighbor has like around that, like a 2004, maybe like 2010 Accord V6 that is in minty shape, perfect shape. It's like you must have had that thing in a garage for like the last 10 years or something. It does not fit the neighborhood at all.
I love that. You just see a car that's definitely been in a garage, and you're like, whoa, ho, ho, look at Mr. Moneybags over here, fucking keeping his car in a garage? The fuck are you doing for a living?
yeah, so good job on somehow just immediately selling everyone on the show a Maverick.
Yeah, I should work for Ford. Ford, give me money, you fucking fascist piece of shits. I hate you. Give me money. All right. Yeah, I think that's it for me.
Well, I mean, I have heard good things about the Maverick. Friend of the show, James Gilboy, drove one. He works at the Drive. So, listeners, you can go check out his reviews if you're interested. I forget which one he drove, if it was the base model hybrid like you were talking about, or there's the top line has the turbo engine and all-wheel drive and stuff.
Yeah.
But, I mean, they seem like pretty decent for a commuter truck, I guess.
Yeah, and just to sell them even harder, you only have to go up to the mid-level, the XLT package to get all-wheel drive, and that one is MSRP, I think, around 25, maybe 26 grand. So not even that much more, and you could get all-wheel drive instead of just the front wheel.
I feel like that's a lot for if that's the only thing you get, but I'm guessing there's more.
Oh no, there's
that.
Yeah, there's like a bunch of other shit. You get like, fucking, I don't know, leather and a bigger screen and all the doodads and hoo-ha's and whatnots.
I'm gonna have to look at Mavericks now. Like, you might have convinced me.
Yeah, they're fucking sick. Although, actually, like, nobody look at a Maverick until I get mine because they're hard to get your hands on. So fuck off until I get mine, and then everybody else can.
Yeah. When you keep saying MSRP, I'm just like, well, yes, but what are you actually going to pay for it? Because
right,
I feel like everyone's paying over MSRP right now.
That's the thing. They're hard to come by, but from what I've seen, most of the ones that are available are not more than like $2,000, some occasions $3,000 over MSRP, which in the current climate is fucking insane. Like, I've seen several that were at or maybe $1,000 over MSRP.
Yeah, I mean, I'm looking at used cars right now, just window shopping. Like, I think we talked last week about how it's a terrible idea to buy anything right now.
Yeah,
but like, there was, I think it was a Mazda Speed 3 that I was looking at, like, I don't know, 2 months ago, has gone up in price by $2,000. Like the same exact car, on the same website, Auto Trader or whatever, is now, was like 6,000, now it's 8,000 or whatever. There's fucking Fiesta ST with a salvage title for $12,000.
Oh, that ain't right.
Fuck.
Yeah,
fuck.
A really good friend of mine who's constantly like wheeling and dealing, like flipping cars and like stuff like that, has just been telling me more and more and more about occasions where like he'll call somebody because they have an ad up for a car, and he just gets that they're accepting offers because they're not like, people aren't even saying like this car is $10,000. It's like, well, $10,000 our best offer, which used to mean $8,000.
Yeah, that's
Now it might mean 14.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's wild.
Yeah, it's wild.
Yeah, just to put it out there, like, you can find used Mavericks right now. They just came out, but there are used ones on the market for like anywhere from like 40 to 45 grand for certain models.
That's outrageous.
Like, yeah, if you want a car right now, you can get a used car for over MSRP of a new car. But if you want a new car, you could pay like, under certain circumstances, you could pay a reasonable markup, like a little bit over MSRP, but you're probably going to have to wait, 6 to 8 weeks, maybe 6 months, maybe more. So, yeah. The used car market is fucked, and it's impossible to get a new car. Good luck buying things.
Good to know. Fortunately, I would never drive something made after 1975.
Well, I don't know. I just think it's a good thing that all this is left in the hands of the market. It's working
Yeah.
real great.
Yeah.
Well, and all these, electric startup trike companies are going to save us all from these overpriced four-wheel cars.
That's certainly where I'm expecting this episode to go. So I'm sure you're gonna give us the evidence to believe that.
Oh yeah.
I fully expect to swear off my love for the Maverick and realize that actually the practical option is to get a trike.
Yeah.
But
Get a Reliant Robin.
Oh yeah. I mean, I think they made a pickup version of that. So
Oh my god. Cool.
interesting.
All right. Well, do we want to hear from Connor and see what he's worked on?
Oh, I
You done with
suppose.
that?
Too. Yeah, I'm good.
All right. Well, I haven't worked on too much. I mean, I've just been mostly, cleaning the car a little bit. I'm getting a new windshield, banner on the visor, whatever. So that'll be cool. I'm excited for that. Which I put up.
I saw the. Yeah, I was going to say I saw the concept art you had. They looked pretty cool.
Yeah, I put up a poll on on our Instagram story, and I just went with the top vote getter because I was like, I cannot decide between. There's two that I really couldn't decide between, so I figured whatever gets more votes, that's what we'll do. So that's what I am doing. I'm excited about it. I think it'll look good.
I've heard people say if you can't make a decision, flip a coin and see if you get mad about it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And or just ask Instagram.
Yeah. Just sometimes you're just like, all right, look, if I can't decide, it means that I can't pick wrong. So so that'll look cool. The old one that's on there now is just decrepit and it looks really shitty and makes the whole car look shitty. So when that's fresh and new, the whole car should look better, hopefully. Mostly. I don't know.
Nice.
Any updates on it running better, or is it just still the same shit?
No, same shit. In fact, I keep forgetting to follow up with the shop I was hoping to have help me diagnose it. So, a different shop. So, yeah, that's still up in the air. I should hopefully remember to call them this week. So, yeah. So, nope, it's still just running like a piece of shit. Which, on that end, I was... I went out of town this weekend, so I had a little bit of a drive to go see my dad. He lives in another state, and so I was trying to test my gas mileage, because I've got the gauge on there, and it tells me sweet little lies that I very much like, and they might be true, they might not, I don't know. But I was like, oh, you know what I should do is I should, test what this looks like by looking at the fuel gauge and seeing what distance I can go at a relatively stable speed with the cruise control, which for some reason my cruise control works really spotty and it'll just randomly kick me out. So that's might have something to do with the tune. I don't know. But anyway, so I was trying to keep it relatively stable and constant and measure my gas mileage. And I'm sure there's you're supposed to go from filled up to empty, but then it's hard you have to go really, really far if you can keep a constant speed. You know what I mean? Otherwise it's if it's in city driving, the range for that is just, who knows what you're going to get. You know what I mean? It's not it isn't situations that you can control really. So I'd rather not do that. But I measured from 3/4 of a tank to half a tank. And I'm thinking, okay, that's 1/4, right? I got a 20-gallon tank. That's 1/4, so that's 5 gallons. And I got...
How you do this.
What?
This is not the right way to do this.
It's definitely not. I also I discovered there's at least a few gallons that it keeps off the fucking thing to for when you're on empty or something. It keeps 3 gallons, and I was like, but even that, it's not linear, is what I've discovered, because from 3/4 to a half, I got 90 miles, and I started I got to my dad's, and I was and it I arrived at exactly the point where it was it's on the line, and I was I'm like doing the math. I'm like, oh my God, I got like 12 miles to the gallon. Like, what the fuck's going on? It's like, oh no, this is terrible. And then I was like, well, even if it's, marginally better, I'm like, the best this could possibly be getting is like 18 miles to the gallon highway. And I'm like, oh, that's awful. Then on the way back, going from a half to a quarter, right? So the same amount in theory, I got 148 miles. So I don't know. The fuel gauge is like not linear at all. Oh, and then I got a chance to watch. I wasn't testing it as stringently, but it went from 1/4 to almost empty in like 50 miles or 60. So it's like wildly different results depending on where you are on that gauge. So
Okay, Connor, you're giving me an aneurysm.
I want it to work that way. It's easier to measure for me.
The easiest way to check gas mileage, like let's say you're taking a 100-mile trip, you fill up and write down your mileage. Then you drive 100 miles and you fill up again, see how much fuel you put in, and then do the math based on how many miles.
Wait, say that again?
Mm-hmm.
So like let's say you drive 100 miles
and you start at full, right?
Start it completely full.
Okay.
Drive your 100 miles and then fill it back up.
And then see how much it takes.
And if it took 4 gallons, then you were getting 25 miles to a gallon.
Okay. That's how I'm going to do it then. That's way better. Yeah. Because, looking at the fuel gauge, I was like, there's also a certain amount that's at the top where it's like past the full line, which I get to regularly. And you can fill it up well past that line. So
I don't think that.
Yeah, you're introducing a lot of variables here.
Sending unit technology has changed a lot, but in the last couple of decades, they've done a different design. So be it. But every sending unit I've ever seen was a float that was on a swivel. And I'm not going to try and do it on an audio platform, but I could get out a pen and paper and show you mathematically why that's not ever going to be consistent across the whole range.
Yeah.
Like,
to me,
it's literally geometrically impossible for that to be the case based on the type of sending units that I only know of those existing.
Yeah. I mean, I put together that I was like, there's something wrong. But to me, I'm always like, I don't know. I see these fucking marks, half a tank. I'm like, well, I assume that means I've got half a tank of gas. But apparently I don't think that's how it works. So it's kind of a relative thing. So yeah, I got wildly different results. And so as of now, I can continue to just believe what the miles per gallon gauge tells me, which is beautiful numbers. I love them. So,
do the thing I just told you, and you'll know your actual fuel economy.
Yeah, well, okay. Well, when I thought it was really bad, I was like, "Oh, I don't want to know the truth." But maybe I'll try that method. That should work a lot better.
Yeah,
cool.
Well, and I mean, what do you call it? Gas tanks aren't like a perfect cube or a sphere or anything. So like they're usually a lumpy shape, so they'll get weird numbers at the top or bottom. But I mean, the way I usually check for mileage is just whenever I fill up for gas, I reset the trip odometer, and then I'll just however many miles I did divided by however many gallons I put in the tank. That's my mileage.
Which is
that was the thing I just explained.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Well, if you do the whole like if you just do like your whole tank and you kind of average it over time, you get that kind of combined fuel mileage, which depends on your driving. But
right,
I like where I can control the variables. Like on a highway drive, it's the best case scenario, but it's also like the thing that I can actually regulate the best. So anyway, that makes sense. I got to try it that way.
Oh, that reminds me. Speaking of Ford Mavericks getting good mileage, did you guys see that guy with the 70-something Ford Maverick that put the lawnmower carburetor on it?
Yes.
And he's getting like 40 miles per gallon.
That's awesome.
On the highway or something. Mm-hmm. Going real slow, but...
No, dude, he was cruising at like 70.
Yeah. Yeah, and he was basically thinking that, if you get that small diameter carburetor, and he had some kind of electronic control that like dialed in the idle air circuit to like to get the
Well,
stoichiometric.
it was such a rudimentary carburetor. There weren't really different circuits, so he created an electronic device. Like this guy must be some sort of engineer because that was the one part I couldn't figure out. But he made it so that he has a controllable intake leak or vacuum leak, so that like if the carburetor started to like run richer or leaner, it would even it out through that. But like, yeah, because it's such a small carburetor, it's pulling a fuck ton of vacuum, and so it's atomizing the fuel really well. Because like, a lot of people don't realize this, but like your average carburetor on like a more performance-oriented motor, but like mild, is usually a 650 or 750 Holly.
Yeah,
and that's like that's 650 CFM. That there are like calculations that you can do to figure out actually how much CFM you're making because it's RPM dependent. If you don't need 650 CFM to cruise at 2,000 to 3,000 RPM, that's for max power high up in the RPM range.
Yeah.
So something smaller is able to flow enough air to like cruise around and have a good time. But when it's small like that, it's sucking a lot harder and creating more vacuum and better fuel atomization and a better burn. I'm really interested in the physics.
So it limits you up
fuel
top,
economy.
but like it helps you a lot at the bottom. That's pretty sweet.
Yes. It's kind of like an unfortunate like thing about the system, but
No, it seems cool. Like, seems to work to me. That's awesome.
Low end fuel economy inherently, like in a carbureted sort of setup, eliminates high end performance, and vice versa.
Yeah,
yeah. I mean, on the other hand, there's this I think it was like a Serbian guy with a first gen MR2. He put motorcycle carburetors on it and was getting like 16 miles per gallon. I mean, it sounded really cool because it had 4 carbs, but yeah, if you have bigger carbs, it's going to be slow air. It's not going to mix as well. You're going to have big, drops of unburned fuel going through your engine.
Yeah, the guy actually like watched. He explains everything about that really well. I'm really interested in like the science of like how you get good fuel economy. And I knew a lot going into watching that video, and I still learned stuff. So it was cool.
Yeah.
Sweet.
I wonder how long that carburetor will last under those circumstances. Like, is that not just going to put a shitload of stress on such a small carburetor, or am I like? I mean, I know it's just vacuum, but that's still like a lot of airflow through a very small.
I mean, it's made of
device.
cast aluminum. I'm sure it's pretty sturdy, right?
Yeah, you're not creating like hundreds of pounds of vacuum. For something like that, it might be 20 to 30 pounds of vacuum, or whatever the measurement for vacuum is. It's like what bar?
Inches of mercury.
Millimeters of mercury or whatever it is. Yeah.
Yeah, but even if it's creating a lot of vacuum for a motor, it's still not creating so much vacuum that it's going to like cave the carburetor in. And I would even argue that because of the simplicity of that style of carburetor, it's probably going to like hold its tune longer and better than a more complicated carburetor might.
That's a fair point. I was thinking more of like the, I guess, somewhat consumable parts of it, like the jets and the seals and things like that, if it was going to put an undue strain on those. But you're right. I mean, a more complex carburetor would just have more jets that would, in turn, be smaller.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm really interested to see if he keeps posting about that, because it's an interesting setup. And if I could figure out how to do like the weird electronic thing that he did, I would be considering the possibility of buying lawnmower carburetors right now. Because like, dude, the motor in my Ford tops out at around 3,000 RPMs. That's top end for that thing.
Wow. Huh.
Probably like 3,500 if I'm being honest.
Why so low? That seems absurdly low.
Well, that doesn't mean that the engine itself couldn't handle higher RPMs, but it means that it doesn't flow enough air to go faster than that.
Oh, okay.
Like
Gotcha.
that engine has a single barrel carburetor with one of the worst intake designs I've ever seen.
Hmm. Okay then.
Like when I replaced the plugs, it looked roughly like if I'm ballparking it, my center two cylinders were probably rich, the next two outward were roughly correct, and the outermost cylinders were lean.
Nice.
Yeah, because that's how good a fuel distribution it's getting.
Nice. Okay. Very fun.
That's why I think there's so much room to get better fuel economy out of that motor, even already getting 16 miles to a gallon, because it's operating so inefficiently and still getting that mileage.
Yeah. That's fair.
Yeah.
Well, good shit.
All right. Well, Connor, you're done with your updates then?
Yeah, pretty much. I mean, just gas mileage stuff, and then I cleaned my quote unquote nice wheels, which they haven't been properly cleaned in years. Like I off the car, really cleaned them, and they're not the best by any means, but they're clean now, so that's cool. But that's it. That's all I've done. So I did a little bit.
All right. Well, Bryant, what have you been up to?
Well, nothing much with my MR2. I did realize the speedometer is reading a little bit high, probably because I don't know if it's just like that from the factory or if it's because I put lower profile tires on it. But so I guess I'm going a little slower than I thought, and also maybe getting a little bit better mileage than I thought. So mixed blessings there, I guess. The other day, I got a little postcard in the mail from the Colorado DMV saying I gotta re-register my Subaru, and it says emissions test is required.
Ooh.
So on Tuesday I was working an earlier shift, so I got out of work earlier in the afternoon. So I took it to the emissions testing place nearby, and it was only about like 10 minutes drive away, so it didn't really get a full warm up, and I failed that test. So I'm like, all right, well I'll just in a couple days, next time I'm working an earlier shift, I'll just go to the next place out that's like a 20-minute drive or whatever, and that'll get everything warmed up. And the other weird thing was when I left the testing place, my car was idling real high, and I think the throttle cable was sticking. So I pulled over on the side of the road and poured some automatic transmission fluid on the cable, and that seemed to free it up. But anyways, I on Friday I took it to the other emissions place and got it fully warmed up, and made sure the throttle wasn't sticking before I went in there, and then it failed again, and the throttle was sticking again. So I'm not sure what's going on with the throttle, but I guess the aftermarket high flow cat that's in there is not working. So I'm just going to put the stock cat on it and try to figure out what kind of tune it needs, and take it back there in a week or two.
Wait, why would the high flow cat be giving you an issue?
I was talking to someone, and I think just like those high flow cats, they're focused more on flow than good emissions. Like they make them so that when they're brand new, they'll just barely pass, is my understanding.
Yeah, I've heard that.
And then they kind of degrade over the years.
Oh,
so
damn! Because I've got some high flow cats coming at some point, but
yeah.
I'm also gonna space out the O2 sensors so that I'm not getting an actual reading anyway. But
well, keep your stock cats if you can.
Those have been gone for a long time. But yeah, oops.
Get a PO box in Montana.
I mean, I have test pipes right now,
okay.
and it's had that for years, and it passes emissions that way. But,
really?
Yep.
Interesting.
Yep. I've been passing emissions for a long time with that. So,
huh.
But I want to put on, high flow cats again, because I'm like, well, I don't want to destroy the environment as much as I have been. Right. Not that my individual choices are making that much of a difference, but
Right.
Yeah, I want to feel
makes
good.
It feel good.
Yeah. Well, it's nice that now that I fixed the fuel leak and I'm not dripping
gas all over the place,
Yeah.
now it fails my emissions test. But oh, and it's leaking a little bit of coolant too. I still gotta figure out, probably something with the coolant reroute is just a tiny little drip. So not a big deal, but I'll have to, whenever I jack it up to take the to change out the cat, I'll have to look at that and see if I need to tighten up something. But yeah, fun stuff.
Cool. Well,
So
does that
Brandon?
bring us to me then?
Yep.
Well, as I've established, I am laid off, so all I fucking do lately is turn wrenches and weld and shit. So I will give us the abridged version, because mostly I've been working on a car for someone else, 71 Mustang. I'm replacing like the inner like fender structures for, but otherwise I haven't really been up to too much. My Chevy is broken down again. My fuel pump went out, and I haven't really fucked with that. But because the Chevy went down the same or the day after the wheel bearing on my Ford finally gave up the ghost, I was forced to fix something. And so I replaced the wheel bearing on the Ford, which, if anybody knows anything about wheel bearings, you press that on, right?
Mm-hmm.
I didn't have a press, so I hit it with a hammer for an hour.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, no, that's the story. That's how I installed it. I
Oh.
rigged up a thing so that I didn't like damage the bearing, and me and my buddy just took turns hitting it with a hammer for actually 40 minutes.
Wow. That's real bad. I mean, what did you use? Like a section of pipe or something to hammer out?
I put V-blocks on the actual bearing retainer, so that it was like distributing the pressure pretty well. Then a piece of tube over to actually hit the V-blocks, and then a piece of Teflon on top of the tube just to kind of limit the like bounce and everything, which probably made it less efficient, but it like made it a little bit easier to handle.
Yeah.
And all because a friend of mine was like, oh, you can actually just do this one little simple trick to draw the bearing onto the bearing surface. And then I get home after having like done all this work at my shop and now not having like a vehicle to run around in. And I look at it and I'm like, I don't know how high he was when he came up with this idea, but like it wouldn't work as a concept, let alone as a reality. Like, yeah, it's difficult to explain without like a diagram, but it just was not a thing.
Yeah.
Was it one of those things where you like put grease in something and then hit something else with a hammer and the grease is supposed to push it through or whatever?
No, so the retaining plate, he was like, if you just get the bearing started, the retaining plate, when you tighten it, will draw the bearing onto the axle. Which sounds really straightforward, except that the thing that the retaining plate actually mates against is the bearing. So it will pull the bearing into the housing in the like rear end, but it won't draw the axle onto the bearing.
Gotcha. Yeah, I think the grease thing was for getting pilot bearings out of flywheels. So yeah.
He doesn't listen to the show, so I can complain about him. The part that actually was infuriating to me was that this was the solution he had told me like earlier on, because I was trying to make my life easier, and before I had to do this in a pinch, my plan was to like turn my oven on like 140 degrees or something and throw the bearing in the oven and then ice the axle for like half an hour.
Yeah.
Because, heating the outside part and cooling the inside part is a really good way to make something slide on super easy.
Yeah, I've done that for bearings for different stuff.
Yeah, and my buddy was just like, why are you overcomplicating this? You can just do this simple thing. And so, like, in a pinch, I was just like, okay, well, fine. I'm in a bind. I'm just going to do the thing that he said so I can get it done real quick. And I'm like, man, if I would have literally just thought about this for an extra 30 minutes, I actually would have saved myself an hour. But, whatever.
Yeah,
sometimes your friends give you bad advice. Sometimes you're the friend that gives somebody bad advice. Like, shit happens. Whatever.
Yeah. Oh, sorry. Did you have something else there?
No, everything else has just been me working on other people's stuff. Now that I'm laid off, like I am everyone's mechanic, I guess.
Did I tell you guys about the weird shit that I saw last Monday around that concert? Or I think we talked about that, off recording or whatever. But,
I don't remember.
Okay. So that Monday I was driving home from work and I was like, what is that smell? Is that like burning brakes or something? Is there something wrong with my car?
Oh, right, you did. Yeah, okay, I remember this.
So I was like, what is that smell? And then I'm like, okay, it's not my car. It's someone in front of me. And then so, traffic moves along and I get up behind this Dodge Avenger. So basically, a Chrysler Sebring that looks more aggressive. And they had like 20 something giant wheels on it. And the tires were rubbing on the inner fender liners and smoking.
Mm.
So, yeah, I don't know. It looked cool, but it didn't smell so great. And then after the concert, I was leaving and I was turning onto the highway on the on ramp. So I turned right onto the on ramp, and just as I turn, I see someone reversing towards me, so backing up down the on ramp. And I'm like, what the hell are you doing? Like, there were people behind me, so I couldn't back up. And so I'm just stuck there. And then eventually I'm like, find enough space to go around this person. But it's like, I don't know. Like,
People, I don't know. I've noticed the last few years, I feel like people drive worse than they used to. Everyone forgot how to drive over COVID, and that's it.
I wonder if it's just someone was a little too high or drunk after the concert and got lost or something. I don't know.
No, Connor's just falling into the trap of every person that is slowly turning into an old man, where people used to know how to drive, and just, I don't know what's up with kids these days.
I was trying not to say that, but
I mean, it's probably true.
I mean, I certainly do some dumb shit on the road sometimes.
I exclusively do dumb shit.
Yeah. But yeah, sorry. I think Connor, we wanted to do like a little update on the whole Elon Musk Twitter nonsense, since we were kind of late putting the last episode out, or I was late. I shouldn't say we. That was my fault.
Yeah, no worries. Just I don't even remember what our conclusions were. I think we kind of left them somewhat vague. Like, it could go through, it could not. But I remember saying, that Twitter was beginning whatever their poison pill defense was the latest news when we went to record, and apparently that didn't actually like go into effect. Like, they were instituting it, but that didn't mean that it went into effect. So whatever, they didn't do it because apparently Elon Musk had a genuine interest in purchasing it, so he claims. It seems they made a deal. So he's officially going to be in the process of acquiring Twitter by leveraging a bunch of Tesla stock, which is currently falling because surprisingly, people kind of were not super eager for him to do this, even though the public debate seems to be super in favor of it. Or at least concern. I don't know. But anyway, there's a whole deal. He's not going to be the owner until months away. This is going to go through all kinds of complex processes and whatnot. So we don't know if it's going to happen or not. I mean, no one's going to know for months. And I mean, Musk is going to get a ton of PR for this for the next several months. He's going to be the guy that everyone's talking about. And to me, I think that's kind of that's how he makes his money. That's how he props up Tesla stock, is by keeping himself in the news. So I don't know if he actually wants Twitter or not. He seems to already be in violation of the deal he made with Twitter, because he's like not supposed to like shit talk Twitter or say things that like could send their stock price dropping, like, and disparaging the company that he's buying, and he's doing that literally every day in writing. So I don't know. He's technically already kind of violating that agreement in action. Whether or not he'll be held accountable is doubtful. But I don't know. I mean, he may not even. He's officially buying Twitter, but it may not go through. So, like, keeping it real, this is an ongoing situation that's just, it's going to go back and forth, I suspect, for the next few months. Like, we're just not going to know. So, this is probably going to be a case where we're just going to have a quick update every once in a while. But, yeah, that's how it is. Don't ask me. It's just, I think Elon Musk is just trying to keep his name in the news, and it's working really, really well. So Tesla stock is dropped.
I can't wait for 1 year from now when like everybody praises Elon Musk for inventing Twitter.
I know, he's the founder of Twitter. I'm telling you, I see reactionary car people, and they literally, I saw people like on Facebook, which I'm rarely ever on because I hate Facebook, but I check it every once in a while, and I saw a bunch of conservative people, oh yeah, we're all going back to Twitter because we have free speech now. And it's just like,
we're all going back to Twitter because we can start saying slurs again.
They're just like, oh, Twitter, no free speech. Elon say free speech. Now Twitter free speech. And they think it's like already happened. It's just, it's unfortunate. They're, reactionary people just been taken for a fucking ride by capitalism, and they believe all the lies, and they're just 100% in. They don't know how anything works, but they're in for 100%. Elon Musk, hard worker, he cares about free speech, except in all the cases where he demonstrably does not care about free speech, but they believe it.
He cares about his free speech.
Sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, not like, organizing workers or anything.
Oh, God, no.
He's going to crush their free speech.
Yeah.
But,
So, I mean,
as long as he gets to say slurs and shit.
It's a nonsense story. It's probably going to make things worse. And I there's a lot of people on the left, and I get it, who are like, let's try not to pretend that this is super important because we're just adding fuel to the fire. And I get that that's the truth. And a lot of people go, oh, Twitter's not real life. And I would say, well, it's not, but it also is reported in news media that people consume constantly. So whatever's happening on Twitter becomes public discourse. I don't know the way around that.
It's his historical thing that like social media sites rise and fall. Like, we can lose Twitter. I'm cool with that. I'm just trying to envision the double win where he buys Twitter and then Twitter tanks because it just sucks with him owning it. And so then like it wipes out huge swaths of his fortune while also destroying the social media site. That's the worst.
And it would, because he's leveraging so much Tesla stock, it could potentially hurt Tesla's stock price too, which would be
3 wins is better than 2.
It's just a part of me thinks he can't lose. It's like everything you're like, oh, his shit should have collapsed a long time ago, and it just doesn't. So, and he'll turn it into 4chan, and I that seems like it can't work. 'Cause I don't know, 4chan sucks. That's why people don't go there. But who knows how it's going to work out? He may end up buying it. He may end up backing out of the deal, which he will make all kinds of fanfare about, and he will be in the news even longer. So, I hate to say it, this is a downer, but I'm pretty sure Elon Musk wins no matter what in this case. Even if he takes he loses $50 billion, he'll make that up in 2 months. I mean,
yeah, I think he'll be fine either way.
Yeah.
I hate that losing $50 billion just means he loses like 25% of his net worth.
Well, and then he'll get it right back because like it's this when the stock price fluctuates, that's how his net worth is determined. So it goes up, it goes down. It doesn't bother him one bit. So unfortunately, I think we're gonna have the worst billionaire. Which I mean, Twitter was already, capitalist media essentially. All social media is, but it'll be marginally worse probably, and he's gonna make a ton of money whether he buys it or not. So, yay! So, yep, that's the update. Just kind of letting people know this is likely going to be a news story for the next several months, for at least for the rest of the year, probably. and we have no idea how it's going to shake out. So that's how it's going to be. But anyway, that's the update. Sorry, I just figured we should probably address that because it's going to be an ongoing debacle.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, if nothing else, it's like it's a little microcosm of capitalism and how dumb it is.
Yeah.
Elon Musk himself does function as that, a microcosm of capitalism that demonstrates all of its like gaping failures.
Yeah. That's a good adjective to use.
Gaping.
Well, all right. Well, y'all want to talk about trikes?
Ooh, do we have a
yeah.
choice?
I mean,
No, I'm kidding. Yeah, let's hear it. I love a scam.
okay. Now, like I said, these are not all scams. Some of them are just
every one of them's a scam.
Yeah. Some of them were a little bit more optimistic in several ways than maybe they should have been. But
we will not discuss those.
Yeah. So I guess to start off with, the first car was actually a trike. The 1885 Benz patent Motorwagen made by Carl Benz. You know, it had two wheels in the back and then one in the front. And
So it all started from the trike.
Yeah.
So, okay, this might seem like an insane question. Is that like a wood-framed vehicle?
I think it actually had a mostly steel frame.
Okay, because I saw something like that was a reproduction of some old vehicle, and I was wondering if maybe I was seeing a reproduction of that, but I think it might have been something else.
It was definitely partially made of wood.
Yep.
A lot of cars, you know, in the early 20th century, like Model A Fords have a bunch of wood in the bodywork and stuff like that. But
and then I might have seen somebody do like a reproduction of one of those, but I'm not 100%.
yeah, no, I'm pretty sure Mercedes themselves has a reproduction that they bring out for special events and stuff. But I guess to get some terminology, you know, with three-wheeled vehicles, you can either have one wheel in the front, which is sometimes called a delta configuration, or you can have two at the front, which is called a tadpole or a reverse trike. So the delta configuration with one at the front, it's easier to manufacture from like if you're starting with like a rear-wheel drive car chassis with a like a axle in the back that's driven. And then the tadpole configuration is more suitable to like a motorcycle configuration where you have just the rear end of a motorcycle and you put two wheels in the front basically. And that design is a little bit more stable in turns because you have two wheels doing the cornering, better for braking also. And then it's also can be more aerodynamic because you can have more of like a teardrop shape. So I'll go through with these different ones, you know, which one is the tadpole design, which is the delta design, and sort of like how that, you know, design decision affected the car. And
so for like reference, like a good example of the tadpole design is like the slingshot, right?
I think so.
Where you got two in the front, one in the back, and is
that the KTM slingshot or what? Who makes that one? Do you know?
I don't know. I don't even know. I just know they call it a slingshot.
Yeah, there's a bunch of these companies. Like I'll talk about a few of them. Like there's so many of these companies that get like a motorcycle rear end and put some kind of like a two-wheel front end on them and make it. Usually it's like a 2-seat sports car kind of configuration.
Can-Am are the ones I see all the time.
Right. And those you sit on them more like a motorcycle or a snowmobile or something.
The ones I've seen, you sit in it very much like a car.
Really?
Yeah. I think. I don't know. I hate them so much that I don't really pay close attention to details.
Yeah.
Because like everything just goes red when I see them. And then I like just wake up covered in blood and, you know, like...
Well, don't say anything too illegal on the recording here. We can cut that out.
I just hinted at something illegal, but also it wasn't true. I am a liar.
Yeah, what was I going to say? So I'm not really in this episode. I'm not really talking about anything that has like that you sit on like a motorcycle. I'm not talking about like the Volkswagen based cruisers or the ones where you start with a Honda Goldwing or whatever, or a Harley for that matter. I'm talking more that you sit in like a car. So I guess the next big thing in trike technology was Morgan. Morgan has made various three-wheeled cars, off and on since 1932. And then these usually have a motorcycle engine at the front driving the rear wheel. And this was kind of in the age of what they called cycle cars, or like microcars, sort of like in between the wars in the 20s and 30s. These were real popular. And then after the World War II, also, there was a lot of microcars that were, because of fuel rationing. And I think so. Morgan still makes some version of the three-wheeler. I think nowadays it's a more modern, like water-cooled engine, and they have more modern suspension and everything. But a lot of people like them just because they're kind of very basic and minimal, sort of roadster, fun little car. Kind of like, I think, that slingshot thing that you're talking about. Another reason why people like three-wheeled cars is in a lot of jurisdictions, you can get away with driving one with... Basically, you can register them as a motorcycle, and you don't have to do the normal... crash test safety and like insurance and registration as much as a car. It's a little bit simpler for. Yeah. And I think like in some jurisdictions it's easier to get a motorcycle license than a car driver's license. So overall it's cheaper and easier. And that has led a lot of like startups and small companies to choose a three-wheeler rather than try and build a full four-wheel car.
I suppose that makes sense. There's just a little less regulation. It's probably a little bit cheaper to produce. So okay, I can see how this happens.
Yeah, and around the world that's true. There's like multiple countries. I mean, most of the companies I'm talking about here are American or European, but like there's a lot of these like three-wheel utility vehicles in Asia, all over the place. So in 1933, American inventor Buckminster Fuller designed what he called the Dymaxion car. And he had this whole series of Dymaxion things. Buckminster Fuller is most famous for inventing the geodesic dome, but he did all these other sort of design exercises. Like he designed a house that's round like a flying saucer, which I got to go inside of one at the Henry Ford Museum in Michigan. It's a pretty cool museum, even though it's named after a fascist. But if you want to see some cool stuff over there, but he had a Dymaxion something else too. But this vehicle, the car, it was a prototype that he hoped eventually would turn into a flying car.
Okay,
and he wanted to have. He eventually wanted to have what he called jet stilts for instant takeoff and flight.
Oh, hey, he was really thinking ahead, huh? Yeah. Oh, we'll worry about the rest of it, but I should make it so that it can lift off once we figure out the lifting off part.
Right. Nice. But he's like, I'll make it so that it can just, taxi around on the ground for now, and then we'll figure that out later. And it was powered by a mid-mounted Ford flathead V8. But it actually drove the front wheels through a flipped axle.
Okay.
So it basically had an entire 1933 Ford drivetrain just backwards, and then it had rear wheel steering. So the rear end was almost like a rudder on a boat or something.
That sounds like a death trap.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
Terrifying.
Well, I'll get to that.
There's just a reason that nothing is rear steer. That's like you need so much technology to make rear steer not a death trap.
Yeah. I mean, the other thing was because it was so aerodynamic, it tended to turn into the wind. So that made it pretty dangerous in any kind of wind. But it did have a really tight turning circle because of the rear steer. So it could turn basically just around its front axle. So it was at a trade show in Chicago, and an unnamed Chicago politician did a hit and run on one of the prototype, which
Nice.
flipped it over and killed the test driver
Ooh.
and injured the 2 passengers.
Oh, that's fucked.
Yeah.
And they
So,
got away with nobody seeing?
Someone saw because they knew. I mean, it says a Chicago politician, but it doesn't say his name. I couldn't find his name anywhere.
I don't even. How does this situation like? Somebody got bribed or something? Wow. Okay.
Yeah,
Interesting.
Yeah, definitely someone got bribed.
Wow. Okay, that's fucked up.
Because I don't think it said his car was removed from the accident, so that makes me think it was not like able to be driven away. That like he got a tow truck or something.
Huh.
Yeah.
Okay. Interesting.
So, and I think there's 3 prototypes of it built, and then a few reproductions built afterwards. And there's a couple of them at various car museums if you want to see one of these. All right. So in 1947, used car salesman Glenn Gordon Gary Davis founded the Davis Motor Company in Van Nuys, California, in order to produce a Delta trike designed by Frank Curtis. After several prototypes, he settled on something called the Devon, with a 47 horsepower Continental Hercules 4-cylinder engine and 4 across seating. So a bench seat for 4 people.
For 4. Okay. Wow. That's like that is a moving sofa.
Yeah. Well, I think Devon is another word for a type of sofa. So I think that fits.
Okay. Wow. This thing looks. This is what I'm picturing in my head is very, very goofy.
Yeah.
I can't. I'm trying to fathom the weight distribution where you have 4 people sitting shoulder to shoulder on a 3-wheeler and that not just tip over.
Yeah, if you only have 2 people in it, that might be a problem unless you go on the opposite sides. Or like, hey, honey, slide over. We're going around a tight corner. So it had aircraft-inspired styling details as well as disc brakes, hidden headlights, and built-in jacks. So I'm not sure what that means. Like, I imagine like in Speed Racer, it's got those jacks that fire down and it can jump over obstacles. But I don't think that's what it was. But yeah, I mean, I think I sent you guys the link in the chat if you want to check out the notes, and you can click on the links in there if you want to see what it looks like, or just search for Davis Devon and you can find it. Davis embarked on an aggressive publicity and promotional campaign for the car, which included numerous magazine appearances, a lavish public unveiling at the Ambassador Hotel in LA, and a promotional trip across the US. There were also plans to produce a hardtop, a convertible, and a rugged Jeep-like military vehicle, which, if you look at the pictures in the Wikipedia page, it looks goofy as hell. It looks like a Jeep with one wheel just stuck on the front. So, despite raising $1.2 million through the sale of 350 dealerships, the Davis Motor Company failed to deliver cars to its prospective dealers or pay its employees on time.
Oh, that's the real problem. Fucking assholes.
Yeah. So both groups sued the company, and the company's assets were liquidated in order to pay back taxes, while Gary Davis himself was eventually convicted of fraud and grand theft and sentenced to 2 years on a work farm labor camp, which I think we need to bring that back.
I was about to say, I was like, wait a second, hold on. Okay, interesting.
All right, a bunch of tankies over here bringing back the gulags.
I'm just wondering here why he didn't just declare bankruptcy and not pay any of it. That seems to work today.
There's a few stories coming up where people did not really do the most financially prudent thing. So I'm not really sure.
By the way, I'm looking at the so I am looking at the Wikipedia for this thing now. Looking at the pictures, this is not nearly as sketchy as I was imagining. Also, that bench seat for 4 people is being optimistic, I think.
Yeah.
I was like, because I'm like, okay, I'm imagining like a fucking sofa with a wheel out in front, and this is like maybe 3 people could squeeze onto this bench seat. It's not
this is for 4 Dust Bowl era humans or
Yeah.
2 modern Texans.
Yeah,
Yeah.
there you go. So it's kind of cool looking. It looks like a little, I don't know, torpedo-esque kind of thing. It's kind of cool. I like it. It sounds like it was a scam, especially for the workers.
Yeah.
Who,
yeah,
to
definitely.
be clear, by the way, they're the ones who took all the fucking risk. Not the bosses, because the bosses got
Right.
paid. It was the workers who didn't. So,
Yep.
all that risk
I like that.
taken by the workers.
I like that his punishment was ultimately just work for 2 years too.
Be a worker for a while.
Yeah, it's like, we're gonna really show you. We're gonna make you do labor.
We're gonna make you do labor, except we're also gonna cover all your expenses while you do it too.
Yeah, exactly.
All right. So the next couple that I have coming up aren't really scams. They're just kind of goofy, and I like them. So in 1951, the Czechoslovak sidecar manufacturer Velorex began production of a 3-wheel tadpole trike called the Oscar 54. So this is a little microcar with a 250cc 2-stroke engine made by Jawa. So it made 9 horsepower. But the real goofy thing about it is the bodywork was made of leather.
Ooh.
Okay, all
Yeah.
right. Interesting.
So it had like a sort of skeleton of like steel wire, and then they just put leather over it because I guess leather was cheaper. Oh yeah, no, they're definitely not
Jesus,
safe at all.
this thing is wow. What? Oh, come on. Oh my lord, look at this thing. It's like, okay,
It's like driving a suitcase.
Yeah. Oh my god, it's like this is like a kid building a fort, but like the car version of it. Like, oh yeah,
Right.
we'll just stretch this tarp over a really sketchy frame. Oh my god, this thing is incredible. What in the hell? Wow. This wasn't a scam though, huh?
No, I mean they made them for 20 years. Some people in Czechia, whatever that country is called nowadays, they like them. They're enthusiasts or whatever. I still not entirely sure why it was made of leather. I guess steel was expensive back then or something. They had a bunch of leather. Yeah, it was made till 1971, and then they briefly flirted with the idea of making 4-wheel cars. Still kind of microcars, but a little bit more like normal with like steel bodywork and 4 tires and everything.
I like how they make this wild bonkers ass thing. They're like, maybe we'll make a car with 4 wheels. We're thinking about it.
Yeah,
But our bread and butter is leather wrapped 3 wheels lawnmowers. Like, what the fuck?
yeah,
Okay, it's cool though. This would be a cool little side project, I think.
yeah. But they weren't able to compete with the juggernauts of the microcar market like Trabant, and they just went back to making sidecars after that, which they still do. They still make sidecars. I think it's a different brand name now, but
hold on. It looks like they actually did make some kind of 4-wheel convertible.
Yeah, I forget what it's called, but yeah,
or something. It looks pretty good. I like the.
Honestly, even the full like 3-wheeler still kind of looks like a sidecar with too many wheels.
Yeah,
Yep.
it does.
Yeah.
There's a picture on Wikipedia of the leather thing with someone in the passenger seat, and the look on their face it looks like they know they're about to die. They just have the look of just like grim acceptance.
They're just humiliated.
That too, probably.
This picture looks like the guy driving is really excited and proud of this thing that he owns, and the other person is related to him and angry about it.
Oh,
Yeah.
that's 100% what's going on there. Yeah.
Where did you find this picture?
It's the first
It's like
one
the-
on Wikipedia.
Oh,
The guy driving also looks like that pig from the Studio Ghibli movie. I don't know. I can't think of the name of
Porco
it.
Rosso.
Yeah.
Porco Rosso. Yeah, he looks like Porco Rosso.
Oh, I see the one that you're talking about. Yeah, the dude with the leather helmet and the goggles.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, that thing. Fine quality vehicle there.
All the craftsmanship of the finest handbags. Now on wheels.
Oh man, can you imagine a Louis Vuitton car just made of leather?
Oh God.
Anybody want to go for a ride on my Gucci motorcycle?
We're quickly approaching a future where like every company is going to make every like thing. Like
Yeah.
soon there's going to be Google cars, there already are Google phones and
That's like Samsung or Hitachi or
I
Yamaha
don't remember.
or whatever.
just
I don't
like
remember the luxury brand. I think it might have been Louis Vuitton, but they released a Vespa scooter that was Louis Vuitton.
Yeah.
I don't know if there has ever been a socialist theorist who has really talked about this concept, but there is a clear effect of like a consolidation of companies trying to expand into literally everything that they're also not good at. Like every store you go to now, I started noticing like what used to be a clothes store, like you're like, oh, I'm gonna go buy clothes, and I'm just like, they have everything now. They're like Walmart, but like a little with more clothes. They all look like Walmart now. Every fucking store, Target, Walmart, they're all the fucking same. And so I've noticed like that, and then companies like, who knows, a Gucci fucking motorcycle, and also a Louis Vuitton phone. Like what drives that? This like, I don't know. There's got to be a way to sum that up into a coherent like theory of some kind. I don't know. Maybe it already exists. Maybe it doesn't. But it's weird to me. I don't know. I guess there's nowhere to go from there. Sorry. I'm just noting it.
But yeah, it's a interesting phenomenon.
Yeah, that fucking sucks.
Yeah, it does.
Yeah, it's definitely happening.
Yeah, what do they call it in Japan? It's called like a zaibatsu or something. It's one of those giant industrial conglomerates that makes all kinds of shit. Like
Yeah.
Fuji Heavy Industries or Yamaha or whatever.
Yes. I mean, I feel like more and more every company is becoming that, and it's just weird to me. It's like, what is the point of different companies anymore?
Well, in the US, it's more like you've got. Did we talk about this, or was it someone else I was talking to? But
It had to have been off of this call because I've had this conversation recently, and I doubt that we've all coincidentally had this conversation separately within the last week.
It was last week. When
Yeah.
Okay, good.
Yeah.
I was like, I remember talking about this with someone, but yeah. But anyways, I forgot what I was going to say. I'll just get back to my notes here. Let's see. So in 1935, the Reliant Motor Company spun off of the Raleigh Bicycle Company. So they made, these little miniature trikes, kind of like the Velo Rex or the Morgan three-wheeler, somewhere in between those. And then they made all kinds of different three-wheeled vehicles over the years. But the most sort of famous and popular was the Reliant Robin, which was a Delta-style trike with a fiberglass body and a 750cc four-cylinder engine.
Okay, I like where this is going.
So this began production in 1973 and was produced off and on in various forms until 2002. They changed the name and the styling, and they called it the Rialto. And I think that one had an 800cc engine, so big hot rod. But it was all basically the same design.
And
Was this the
like-
one? I don't know if you're getting to it. Was this the one that they like did on Top Gear?
yeah,
Okay, this is that one.
yeah. So
Okay.
like they had a reputation for tipping over because
Yeah.
it's got the one wheel in the front. And so on this Top Gear segment, I forget what year it was from. It was at least like 10 years ago. Jeremy Clarkson kind of hammed this up, and he rolled Robin 6 times in 14 miles. But afterwards, he admitted that it had been modified to make it less stable. So I think they put a different size tire on the left and the right, and like put a weight on one side, so it would
Boo.
it would tip over a lot easier.
That's so cheating. God,
Yeah.
it's so lame. All right, because I was like ready, like, oh, this thing must have been a fucking complete, which it probably was.
It
somewhat
was
unstable.
actually very dangerous.
I mean,
Yeah.
you look at it, and you've got a lot of car that is overhanging. Like, you can get away with this design if like the tire is in the front, but that's like the only thing there, and there's nothing overhanging it. This is like you're putting a car body that is pretty much a normal car body on top of one wheel in the front, which, yeah, not very stable.
Whatever. Ooh, look at me. I'm Connor. I'm trying to live through the day.
Generally, a thing I'm relatively good at so far. I'm good at that until the day I'm not.
I don't know if y'all saw this photo there at the end of the article, but apparently they were at times used as banger racers.
Yeah.
Which is apparently like stock car racing, but they're encouraged to run into one another.
Yeah, it's like Demolition Derby.
So if you thought they couldn't get more dangerous, they can. How about you race them with a bunch of other people and intentionally try to run them into one another?
It looks like in this photo, like they got a good crowd too. Like there are plenty of people watching.
Dude,
this.
fuck! I'd go see
I'd go
that.
see this. Yeah.
That seems
This
awesome.
basically feels like Roman chariot races at this point.
It's like, oh, someone might die. I want to go see it.
Yeah.
I really do. I dream of a world where we have gotten rid of, personal vehicles as like the main mode of transportation, but we also have like just everyone is involved in some kind of weekend motorsport, and it's just accessible and you get to do goofy shit.
Yeah.
But
Hell yeah.
yeah, that's the dream world, but not gonna get that anytime soon.
I think that's called Finland. I think they're
kind of like that. Yeah, they're sort of like that there.
But yeah, so like I said, in the UK, I guess it's easier to get, or at least at one point it was easier to get a motorcycle license than a car license. So a lot of people, bought these Reliant Robins, especially if they were a little bit more down on their luck than the average person. And I think...
Oh, and they could actually like register that as like a motorcycle type class instead of like a regular car.
Yeah, it was. It was registered as a motorcycle.
Gotcha.
And what was I going to say? There was it was kind of used as like a punchline in a lot of like British sitcoms as like saying that, oh, these people are poor because they drive a Reliant Robin or whatever. I guess there's a real popular sitcom called Only Fools and Horses that, as far as I can tell, it's kind of like Stanford and Sons, but British. And those guys drive a Reliant Regal van.
Is that also a three-wheeler? This van?
Yeah,
Oh, okay.
Like a panel van version of the same thing.
That's okay. That's interesting.
But yeah, I think that's a good point to leave it for now. We'll cover some other more dubious companies in part 2, starting with the 1970s.
Companies that are even more dubious than their car design.
Yeah, some of them I really wish they would succeed, but I have my doubts. So
yeah,
we'll leave that mystery for now and come back to it. But anything else before we wrap up here, guys?
Nope. Just I don't know. Rate and review podcast if you like it, and come visit us on, social media. Type in our name and you'll find us.
Yeah, we like hearing from you guys.
Yeah, pretty much.
Yeah. Oh, and I'll kind of tease this right now. We were talking about this off air of possibly doing like a call-in show or like a live stream or something like that. If we can figure out the logistics of that, and we can, get some listeners interested in, calling in at a certain time, we'll make that work. But yeah, I'm not sure when exactly that'll happen.
Knowing us, it'll be a while, but
yeah,
we're slow.
So I think we've said this before, but if there's something that we mentioned as like, oh yeah, we're totally going to do an episode on that in the future, and we haven't for like the last 4 months or whatever, listeners, hold our feet to the fire and tell us, hey, I really want to hear that episode about whatever. So
yeah, but it might be hard to believe, but we are not nearly as organized as we present ourselves on the show, and I don't think I've gone out of my way to present us as organized.
Yeah, well, I'm definitely not organized.
Yeah, I find the idea that we're less organized than we seem very believable.
Well, I think that's all I got. So follow the social media and give us a review or whatever. Much appreciated.
All right, everybody. You guys have a good day.
Bye.
All right.
Yeah,
good night.
Thanks for listening.
Why do I keep saying good night? Who knows when they're listening to this? Just because we're recording this in the afternoon.
Go to bed. I don't care.
Yeah,
good night. You
go
to
take a quick nap, and then you can get up and do whatever else.
Capitalism works, if it works at all, because it always has socialism to bail it out and to subsidize it.
Ask any racer, any real racer.
It don't matter if you win by an inch or a mile. Winning's winning.
In the 1980s, 50 corporations controlled most news media in America. By 1992, that number shrunk to 24. And today, only 6 corporations control 90% of everything Americans see, hear, and read. The money spent on the Iraq War alone, which killed 1 million people, 5% of Iraq's entire population, and planted the seeds for ISIS to flourish, could have covered all global investments to halt climate change trends.